Say of German English ancestry, and I can trace my ancestry back to the early 1800s as all white. I feel closer kinship to a German than a Black or Hispanic from the USA, even though I don't speak German. So I would respectfully disagree about culture being the most important thing. I think genetics trump all. I feel closer to the English and Germans than I do, say, an American citizen of Southern Italian ancestry whose family has been in the USA many generations. After all, it is our genes that separate us from all other animals, and our genes are why we have an eternal soul. Okay, this just took a turn. I would say that I recognize the one-drop rule. I had only read the beginning of this, and I thought, okay, this would be an interesting question. Wasn't expecting the comment to take the turn that it did. Hi, I'm Danielle Romero. Thank you so much for being with me here on my channel where we talk about American identity and family stories. It's Sunday, so we have my Ask Me Anything, where I respond to some of your comments and questions from last week's video and just stuff that I've seen come through. I didn't think I was going to get this video out because I was feeling kind of under the weather yesterday, but look at us. We did it. We're here. So let's jump in. The first question was from Good Vibes and Out. How do we know that you're not AI? And so this was actually a comment on a video that I put out last Friday. It was called the Dangerous Rise of AI History Channels. And I had come across this insane video, this channel of this fake, like, native tribal elder giving older people really dangerous and bad, creepy advice. And so we were talking about that, and I can link to that if you haven't seen it. So how do you know that I'm not AI? That's actually, I guess, a good question. I feel like I make too many mistakes to be AI. I guess this is a modern day question, though. This is the modern day litmus test. Like, how do you know someone is AI or not AI? I feel like you could still kind of tell. For the most part, I mean, you could check my channel's been around since before AI was a thing, before I knew AI was. I actually just hit my 4-year anniversary July 31st of posting on YouTube. It would be hard for AI to fake. It's just the journey that I've been on since I started this channel of starting by interviewing my mom's family and trying to understand the secret family from Louisiana. And so if you haven't seen that part of my work, if you go to my channel page, I think the full documentary that I did, I put it together and it just will probably automatically play. Or you can watch each episode by itself. And so you can get to know a little bit of why I started this channel. And I do all the work on it by myself, which is why it's kind of janky sometimes. Number 2, someone had asked, where is the surname list? So for a lot of the videos, I've been putting together surname lists for you guys. They're free. It's just a free download that you can print out. It's on my website in newyorktonashville.com. That's NYTO Nashville.com. Right now I have Redbone surname list, Melungeon surname list, and the Great Dismal Swamp surname list, because that was my video on Friday. And I'm going to do more. Let me know what other ones you'd like to see. But just remember when you're doing this, a surname isn't proof. You don't look at it, either my name's on here and this is my community, or my name isn't on here and it's not my community. The lists should give you a place to start looking, see what surnames kind of intermarry and overlap, what counties to check. And yeah, so I'll leave a link to that below and you can let me know what you're interested in. The other list that you might be looking for is a list of the people that Walter Plecker reclassified as colored, and that included people of mixed Native and Black ancestry. And so I don't think that's on my website, but I'll leave a link to that below for you guys too. Okay, question number 3 had to do with tribal enrollment. Rocky Tucker 7480 said, I am Native American, identify as Native American. I'm a member of a Native American tribe, but yet none of these tests pick up the Native American heritage, but I find it ironic because it shows my same admixture being what Native American is compromised of. So I'm not sure what they mean there, but so explain to me how I can have broken down the same admixture as Native American, but yet hold no Native American DNA and at the same time be a member of the Native American tribe. Okay, how can we break that down? So I would say there's a couple things happening at once. First, commercial DNA tests sometimes genuinely do miss some Native ancestry if they don't have good reference populations. Also, a lot of tribal nations have declined to hand over their DNA samples to companies. So I understand that, right? If your ancestry traces to a nation that maybe is not well represented in the panel, the test may not pick that up for you, or it could misassign it as East Asian or Central Asian, which I've had some tests give me like a huge chunk of Asian. I'm pretty sure that it's not Asian based on my paper trail. It would be Native American. Second, I would say after about 6 or 7 generations, our ancestry is going to start diluting below the detection threshold if we're not having people intermarry with that same, genetic background. And you also don't inherit DNA from every ancestor, so they're still your ancestor, but you don't inherit maybe their DNA. You're getting chunks from different ancestors. So a great-great-great-grandmother who you would say is a full-blood native, fully native, could pass almost nothing detectable to you and maybe pass a lot to your sibling. And this is also the reason why people with multi-generationally mixed families, like our kids look different. Like they can look pretty different from each other. So the recombination of that stuff is a lottery. But the bigger point is that DNA and tribal citizenship, these are two totally separate questions. So federally recognized tribes, that means that they're recognized as a nation by the US government. They have their own enrollment criteria. Some use blood quantum, some use lineal descent from a specific role, like the Dawes role for the 5 tribes. State recognized tribes have their own rules. None of those, though, are using commercial DNA tests as a basis for citizenship. Like, I know that's not going to be a thing for anyone. So the next question is about isolate communities. I'm going to pull up this. Lisa Palmer, 4725, said, we have red bones in the state of Delaware. There are also other racial isolate communities like the Moors, Melungeon, Nanticoke, Lenape. Part of my bloodline also is the Perkins family. So I've done a lot of work on these tri-racial isolate groups. I find them really interesting and there's a lot of overlap. I've done the brass ankles. Last week I did the maroons from the Great Dismal Swamp. Obviously, I have tons of Melungeon content. Red bones, and from the Louisiana, Texas neutral strip area, obviously Creole, a lot of that on my channel as well. There are a couple other ones that people have brought up that I was trying to think. I think maybe the wee sorts that I wasn't familiar with. But I think what's just super interesting about these communities is that they have their own history and their own experiences, but there's so much overlap, and usually a lot of overlap genetically. The tri-racial isolate, you're usually getting some mix of European and African and Native American. Depending on the location, the specifics are going to be different, but I have a lot of that content. So if you just type that into my channel page, you should be able to find a lot of that stuff. Bill James 52 said, I'm from the USA of German English ancestry, and I can trace my ancestry back to the early 1800s as all white. I feel closer kinship to a German than a Black or Hispanic from the USA, even though I don't speak German. So I would respectfully disagree about culture being the most important thing. I think genetics trump all. I feel closer to the English and Germans than I do, say, an American citizen of Southern Italian ancestry whose family has been in the USA many generations. After all, it is our genes that separate us from all other animals, and our genes are why we have an eternal soul. Okay, this just took a turn. Oh, no. I would say that I recognize the one-drop rule. I'm extremely proud of my heritage and my genetics, as I suppose most folks are of theirs. Wow, okay, I had only read the beginning of this, and I thought, okay, this would be an interesting question. And this definitely took a turn. But thank you for being honest and taking the time to have a conversation with me. I definitely welcome people who don't agree with me, and maybe you have an opinion I disagree strongly with, but if you're willing to have a conversation with me and not use slurs and be aggressive, I welcome that conversation. And I think the more conversations we have, the better off we all are. So thank you for writing. I do have to push back, obviously, on some of this. So I would say our connection to our ancestors, I think, is real. I have felt that. Like, I have always felt especially strong connection to my mom's side of the family, even though I had never been to Louisiana. I didn't know the heritage. And as soon as I got more information, like it all clicked into place for me. So I would say the pull towards a German ancestor or ancestry, even though maybe you couldn't find the village on the map, I still think it's real. I think you can feel that strong connection. And I'm not going to try to say that you don't. I think there are ties there that we can't really explain. But white, Black, and Hispanic, I have to push back on a little bit because these are legal categories. These are not genetic categories. So a German, an Italian, and Greek at this point in America are all white. Now, 200 years ago, that was a different story. And I think it's really interesting, especially that you bring up that you feel like you have more in common with a German in Germany, even though you don't speak German, than an American with South Italian ancestry. And I think what's interesting about that in particular, this Friday's video, we're going to be diving into the legal experience of racial science here in the United States surrounding Italian Americans, because they were always legally white, but the belief was that they were polluting America's racial purity. And I think Bill James would probably agree with a lot of those arguments based on what he is saying. And the one-drop rule that you mentioned, I'm curious what that means to you. Sometimes it's too bad that we can't have a conversation instead of just me talking back. But in the video, I think the video you responded to was, is white extinction real? And it was this idea, my perspective is that the colors don't matter that much, but it's the shared culture that we have that matters. And so when I say culture matters more than genetics, what I'm saying is that genetics tell you where your ancestors lived. The government will tell you what box you check, but culture is your lived experience. It's your language, it's the music, it's the history that you all know, it's the landmarks in your country, it's all of that. And so I do wonder if you went to Germany, if you would feel like that. I guess that's my question, because I haven't traveled too much internationally, but one place in particular I think is relevant to this conversation. I went to Brazil for a while when I was in college, and I looked like a lot of the people there, okay? And people would just assume that I could speak Portuguese, which I could not. And you really feel how much of a culture you have as an American when you leave America. And I know people like to joke like America doesn't have a culture, but that's just not true. It's just not true. And I could feel that I was a foreigner in that country. And even if I had similar genetic makeup as these people, I looked like I could have been Brazilian, no problem. But the culture was so different. It was so different. And I did not feel like I belonged there. And then I remember when my plane landed in Atlanta. I had a good time in Brazil, but I was so happy to be home. When you're saying that you believe in the one-drop rule, this is a legal framework. There are plenty of people who I think you would not know that they had any African ancestry. So you're saying you believe in the one-drop rule, but I guarantee you there's people that you would have categorized as white who, by the one-drop rule, were not white. This is the whole point of the channel, is being able to have these discussions. Let me know what you think. I wasn't expecting the comment to take the turn that it did. That's for sure. The next question or comment was a comment from Eric9213. It was so nice. He said, I feel like I'm watching a university professor when I watch you describe your journey. You've truly mastered your craft, and I have a deep respect for you. Keep it up and good luck. That was so incredibly nice, especially because I feel like there were so many crazy comments sometimes that it's good to just be positive sometimes. It's funny because before I had started this channel, I was feeling a little bit of a crisis of identity. And I don't mean racially. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had taught for a while. I had taught up to 8th grade history, and previously I had taught lower elementary English and mathematics. And I had thought about going back to school to get my PhD, but I wasn't totally sure. And I didn't want to do something like that just because I didn't know what to do next. And then COVID happened, and I decided to start interviewing my family over Zoom and kind of digging into genealogy and ancestry more, just because I had so much time to be home with my computer. I'm really grateful that I've had this opportunity to take my background as a historian and as a teacher, and then to kind of overlay that with my family story. An absolutely incredible journey. This is truly my dream job. If I had to create the most perfect job, it's doing this with you. And so thank you for making that possible and being a part of the community and the conversation and the encouragement. I really appreciate it. Logan Doss said, Danielle, a question for next Sunday. Do you like art? If so, what artists and what works? I love art. One of the things I love is, I don't know if you can see it, probably not with the way the camera is, but I collect ocean paintings. I have them all over my house. They're very the way I want them. So I just want the ocean. I don't know if you could see this painting. I might have to put a picture over the screen for you guys. But this one's really interesting because the painting looks like something is just about to come out of the water or something has just gone underneath the water. And so I have different ones all over the house and really love collecting little paintings. And also in Tennessee, I'm totally landlocked here. So maybe that's part of it too. But sculpturally, I adore Bernini. And I have never gotten to see those sculptures in person, but I am absolutely blown away by the way that this man handled marble. Genuinely incredible. And I have to say, as a Christian, I look at it and I just see a true gift from God, a supernatural talent to be able to sculpt the way that he does. But I enjoy all kinds of art. I love connecting with the human experience. And so whatever media is used to do that, whether it's painting or sculpture or music. I'm really excited about this Friday's video. And I never ask people to subscribe or ring the bell or anything, maybe once in 4 years, but I really don't want you to miss this video. So do whatever you got to do to make sure you don't miss it. It's coming out Friday morning. And the reason I feel like it's so important is because I have never seen a video that put all these primary sources together like this. This was a beast for me to work on. It was so hard. When I finally finished, I just like collapsed onto the couch because I was like so beat up from it. But I think it's a super, super, super important video. And it goes with this idea of are Italians white? And what I'm doing, as I always try to do, is use primary sources, not my own vibes and opinions, but bring primary sources to the table to show you that there was a debate going on in the US in the 1920s over Southern Italians and that they were racially inferior and they were also not European, but that they were originally from Africa. And this was happening in our government and directly shaped the immigration law that limited Southern Italians in 1924. And so I've got the receipts. Love to have you for the discussion, whatever side you are on it. I don't really think there should be a side though. It's just let's engage with the primary sources and I would love to have you there. So thank you so much for sticking with me. I feel like I'm a little under the weather today, trying to hold it together, but I think we did it. So let me know what you think. I'll see you on Friday.